You know what's the worst part about betrayal? It's not the pain, not the humiliation, not even losing your money or your home. The worst part is the moment you realize that the people you called family never actually loved you. They just put up with you, as long as you were useful. And the day the scales tipped, they threw you out like trash. I remember every single detail of that evening. I was 22, just graduated college, came home with honors, full of hope. I thought I'd work in the family business like my dad promised before he died. I thought they were waiting for me, that they loved me, that they valued me. Stupid. God, I was so stupid. That day it was raining. I remember that rain. Started in the morning and didn't stop until night. That gray, ugly sky, like nature itself knew something awful was about to happen. I was sitting in the kitchen, drinking tea, reading a book. Suddenly the front door opened, and they all barged into the hallway. My stepmother, Elena Viktorovna, her brother, Uncle Vitya, and my half-brother, Pavel. The same Pavel who couldn't string two sentences together without a tutor, but got everything because he was the heir to the family name. They were drunk, not wasted, but drunk enough to say the truth they usually kept hidden. Elena didn't even say hello. She slammed some document on the table and said, "Pack your stuff. You're leaving." I didn't get it. Thought it was a joke. I smiled and asked, "Is this a joke?" She looked at me the way you look at a puppy that's done something wrong, with disgust and exhaustion. "What joke, Christina? You've been living here for free for 2 months. Did your father leave you the apartment?" "No. He left everything to me. I let you stay while you looked for a job. But did you find one?" "No. You sit around reading books. We're not a charity." I tried to argue that I was looking, that I had interviews, that my honors degree in economics meant something. Uncle Vitya laughed. This loud, ugly laugh. "Honors degree? Honey, that degree is a piece of paper. Nobody's gonna hire you without connections. And the only connections you have are the ones we gave you. And we're taking them back." Pavel said nothing. He stood by the door, staring at the floor, smirking. He always hated me, because I was smarter, because Dad praised me, because I was a reminder of his first wife, the one his mother could never push out. I didn't cry. I packed one suitcase, the oldest one I could find in the closet. I threw in 3 pairs of jeans, 5 t-shirts, my diploma, my passport, and a photo of my dad. That was it. My whole life fit into one suitcase. When I walked out the door, Elena called after me. I turned around, thinking she'd changed her mind, and she said, "Hand over the keys." I did, and the door closed. Outside, it was still pouring. I stood on the porch, one hand on my suitcase, no umbrella, no money. I had 3,000 rubles in my account. No home, no job, no family. And I was 22 years old. The people closest to me had just shown me my real place. It was outside that door, on the street, in the rain. The first 3 months, I crashed with friends. First with a college friend, but her boyfriend said I was in the way. Then with a distant aunt, but she lived in a 1-bedroom, so I slept on the floor in the hallway. Then a shared apartment I split with 2 girls who worked as waitresses. I worked everywhere. Sales clerk at a kiosk, overnight shift at a gas station, office cleaner, a sales job where I only got commission, so I walked all over the city selling plastic windows. I slept 4 hours a night. I never complained. I just remembered. I remembered every humiliating little detail. How my stepmother said, "You're nobody." How Uncle Vitya called me a freeloader. How Pavel smirked at my suitcase. I wrote those memories in a notebook I kept under my pillow. And every time I wanted to give up and move to my grandma's village, I'd read them again. And the anger would come back. Not the kind of anger that makes you break dishes. The kind that makes you work. Work when others sleep. Work when others drink. Work when others bitch about their lives. By year 3, I got a job as commercial director at a small logistics company. I started as a regular manager, and within 2 years, I was indispensable. I tripled sales, cut costs, pulled the company out of a crisis. The owner, an older guy with no kids, once told me, "Christina, you've got balls of steel. If you weren't a woman, I'd make you CEO." I smiled and thought, why would I want your CEO job? I'll be my own CEO. And I quit. Started my own company, freight forwarding. Took out a high-interest loan. Rented a basement office. Bought 2 old computers and 1 printer. That was it. The first year I barely slept. I drove to warehouses myself, negotiated with drivers, handled customer conflicts. Sometimes I'd pass out at my desk, wake up at 3 a.m., and keep working. Year 2, I hired 3 people. Year 3, 10. Year 5, I had a small warehouse, a fleet of 5 trucks, and an office downtown. Not a basement, a real office, with a sign, with my name on it. And just when I'd almost forgotten that night with the suitcase, fate hit me again, or gave me a gift. I still haven't decided. I found out that my father's old company, the one Elena and Pavel ran into the ground, was on the verge of bankruptcy. Huge debts, lawsuits, tax trouble. My stepmother tried to sell the business, but no buyers. It was losing money. The equipment was outdated, the reputation trashed. I didn't go looking for that information. Found me. One of my business partners said in the break room, "Hey, Christina, isn't that your old family company falling apart? Too bad. That was a good asset 10 years ago." I acted like I didn't care, but inside, something clicked. Just like when I first read that notebook of grievances. I knew the moment had come, not just to go back, but to walk in, as the boss, as the owner, as the one they threw out, who built an empire on the ashes of her own humiliation. I decided to buy their company, not out of pity, not out of love for my dad, out of pure, cold calculation, and out of a desire to look them in the eyes. Just once. One single time when they'd sit across from me and realize they had no power over anything anymore. Not over me, not over their business, not over their pride. I played it quiet, through proxies, through lawyers who didn't know my real name. I bought up the company's debts from creditors at a discount. I negotiated with banks for restructuring. I waited. Almost a year I waited for them to run the company into the ground so that selling was the only option. And when my stepmother agreed to sell everything for pennies, I made my offer. It was 20% higher than anyone else's, because I wanted them to have no doubts, to think a generous investor was saving them. They had no idea that investor was me. They signed a preliminary agreement, set a closing date, and then I called. On Elena's personal number, the same number I'd blocked 5 years earlier but somehow kept. She didn't recognize my voice. She said, "Hello, who's this?" I said, "Hello, stepmother. It's Christina, your stepdaughter, the one you kicked out into the rain with one suitcase. I'm calling to say thank you. If it weren't for you, I'd never have my own company. And now I'm coming to sign the papers. As the buyer. Take care." I hung up. She called back 12 times. I didn't pick up. 3 days later was the closing. In the conference room of their bankrupt company. I wore my best suit. Navy blue, sharp. Heels. Hair in a bun. Minimal makeup, but flawless. I didn't want to look trendy or sexy. I wanted to look like someone who bought your whole life over breakfast. When I walked into that conference room, they were already sitting there.
Elena, Pavel, Uncle Vitia.
And some lawyer with a fat briefcase. The look on my stepmother's face when she saw me, first white, then red, then white again. She opened her mouth but couldn't make a sound. Pavel jumped up. His chair fell over. "You! It was you! You bought our debts!" I sat down calmly across from them, put my passport and a shareholder statement on the table. "Hello, family. Have a seat. We've got a lot of work to do. I'm the new CEO of this company. And the first order I sign is going to be about you. You know what's the sweetest part of revenge? Not their fear, not their anger, not their humiliation. The sweetest part is when they realize they can't change a thing. That they signed all the papers themselves. They agreed to the price themselves. They walked into that room themselves. And now every look I give, every word I say, it's a nail in the coffin they started building that rainy night they threw me out. I smiled. Not maliciously, calmly, the way people smile when they know the game is over and they've won. Elena sat across from me and couldn't say a word. Pavel was still standing because his chair had fallen and he apparently forgot how to pick it up. Uncle Vitya stared at the table, and I could see his hands shaking. Their lawyer flipped through documents and got paler by the page. The silence in that conference room was so thick you could cut it with a knife. I broke it first. Calm, like we were talking about the weather. "Okay, let's get down to business. According to the contracts you signed, 100% of the company's shares transfer to me. I also bought up all the debts to creditors. The company is mine now. All of it. Completely. No exceptions. I opened a folder and took out a document. This is my appointment as CEO. Effective today. Elena finally found her voice. It was hoarse, like a toad's. You have no right. We'll challenge the deal. You tricked us into signing. I looked her straight in the eye. The same eyes that looked at me with disgust 5 years ago. Now they held fear. Pure animal fear. Tricked you, I said. How exactly did I trick you? I offered the best price. You agreed. Your lawyer reviewed everything. Nobody forced anybody. You just wanted to dump a losing asset before it completely collapsed. And you sold it. To the highest bidder. Me. By accident. Or not by accident. Does it matter? Pavel finally picked up his chair and sat down. He looked like he'd been hit over the head. Listen, Christina, he started. We're family. Can't we be reasonable? Okay, we had a fight. Okay, we kicked you out. Stuff happens. But you didn't do all this just for that, right? You're a businesswoman. Let's make a deal. Hire us back. We've got experience. We'll help you turn the company around. I couldn't help but smile. Help? Pavel, you spent the last 3 years destroying the procurement department. You took kickbacks from suppliers, bought defective materials at inflated prices. I've seen all the reports. You're not a helper, you're a crook. And Elena? She transferred company money into her personal account when trouble started. That's embezzlement on a massive scale. I have all the statements. So don't give me that we're family crap. You're not family. You're the people who threw me out in the rain because I was inconvenient. And now I'm twice as inconvenient. Because I'm your boss. I turned to Uncle Vitya. He was still staring at the table. And you, Uncle Vitya? Remember laughing at my degree? Saying it was just a piece of paper? Well, that degree helped me build a company that now owns yours. My piece of paper turned out to be stronger than your greed. He looked up. His eyes were red. He hadn't been drinking today, but he looked like a hangover that had lasted a year. What do you want from us? Money? We don't have money. The company's bankrupt. We're in debt ourselves. I nodded. I know. I don't want your money. I never did. I wanted something else. Justice. You threw me out when I was weak. I came back when I was strong. And now I want you to feel that. Every minute of every day you spend knowing that everything you built now belongs to me. I closed the folder and stood up. The documents are signed. The deal is registered. You no longer have any connection to this company. None. Not as shareholders, not as employees, not as consultants. You're fired. All 3 of you. The termination orders are ready. Signed. Effective today. Elena started crying. Not prettily, not like in the movies. For real. Snot, sobs, trembling lips. Christina, sweetheart, forgive us fools. We were wrong. We were awful. You're so smart, you were so kind. Don't you hate us that much? I looked at her and suddenly realized I didn't feel any hatred. None at all. Just exhaustion. And a huge, almost cosmic relief. I don't hate you, Elena. I despise you. That's worse. Hatred can be put out somehow. Contempt lasts forever. You're not my family anymore. You're not even my ex-relatives. You're just people I used to know. And don't want to know anymore. I walked out of the conference room. I went slowly down the hall so they could see. So every step of my heels echoed in their heads. I passed my father's old office. Some stranger was sitting in there. I'd fire him tomorrow. I passed the kitchen where I'd been drinking tea that fateful night. Past the window where the rain had been pouring. Now the sun was shining outside. But I remembered that rain. I'll always remember it. Because under that rain, a new me was born. The one who doesn't ask for mercy. Who doesn't wait for approval. Who builds her own world with her own hands. And if someone tries to tear it down, she doesn't cry. She builds a new one. Better. Stronger. Higher. A month after the deal, I invited them all to a meeting. In that same house where I'd been kicked out. The house was mine now too. I'd bought it from the bank when they couldn't pay the mortgage. Elena, Pavel, and Uncle Vitya sat at the same kitchen table. Only now I sat at the head. And they sat on the sides. Like guilty school kids. I didn't make tea. Didn't bring cookies. I just put 3 envelopes on the table. This is your severance. The compensation you're legally entitled to. Not a penny more. Inside the envelopes are also invitations to interviews at other companies. My partners know your story. They'll give you a chance. If you earn it, that is. I won't do anything else for you. Ever. This is my last gift. Pavel took his envelope, looked at me and said, "You've become cruel, Christina. Dad would be proud of you." I don't know if that was an insult or a compliment, but I didn't care, because I finally understood one important thing. Cruelty isn't when you take revenge. Cruelty is when you throw a 22-year-old girl out into the rain with one suitcase. And justice is when that girl comes back 5 years later and buys everything you owe her. Not out of cruelty, out of self-respect. I didn't want to torment them. I wanted them to know what they did had consequences. And those consequences are with them forever. A year later, the company was profitable again. I hired new people, upgraded equipment, expanded markets. My ex-relatives got nothing. Even Uncle Vitya, who begged me to hire him as a security guard, I said no. Because every time I saw their faces, I remembered that suitcase, that rain, that door closing. I can't forget. And I don't want to. Memory is the only thing that stays with you forever. I don't want to forgive. I want to remember. Because if I forget, I become that weak girl again who let herself be thrown out. And I'm not her anymore. I'm the one who bought their company. The one sitting in the CEO chair. The one who every morning watches the sunrise from the window of her father's old office. And smiles. Not meanly. Not triumphantly. Just because life turned out well. Despite them. Against all odds. Thanks to them. Elena died 2 years later. Cancer. Fast, terrible, alone. Pavel and Uncle Vitya didn't come to see her. I didn't come either. Not because I was angry, but because she meant nothing to me. Just a woman who once hurt me. I didn't wish her dead, but I didn't mourn her either. Pavel moved to another city, opened a small shop, went under, now drives a truck for a living. Uncle Vitya lives on his pension, drinks, his health is bad. Sometimes I get messages from him. Long, rambling, begging for forgiveness. I don't reply, not because I'm heartless, but because forgiveness won't change anything. It won't bring back that suitcase, won't erase that rain, won't open that door. It would just give them an indulgence they don't deserve. You know what's the main thing I learned from all this? Not that revenge is sweet. Not that success is the best revenge. Not that you have to forgive and let go. No, I learned something else. Sometimes life gives you a second chance not so you can get revenge, but so you can prove to yourself that you're worth more. I didn't take revenge. I just bought what belonged to my father, what they couldn't keep. I didn't take their last penny. They lost everything themselves. I was just there to pick it up. And that's not cruelty. That's business. That's life. That's the only language they understood. And in that language, I said to them, "You lost. I won. Game over." Subscribe to my channel if you know what it's like to be thrown to the curb. If you've ever started from 0 or less. If you believe that justice exists, even if it doesn't come right away. I'll tell you another story. About the time my business partner screwed me and I won a lawsuit without a lawyer. Or how I started a business with 3,000 rubles in the bank. That's next week. For today, hit like if you think I did the right thing. And comment below. Would you have forgiven them in my place? I'll read it. Promise. Thanks for being here. Remember, your suitcase doesn't decide your fate. Only you do. No one else. See ya.